Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. Okay, so today I am doing things a little bit differently. So normally I would be doing this in a sort of vlog style where I sort of take you around my whole day process of doing my bakes. But seeing as though I can't really go out anywhere at the minute and we're obviously having to buy all of our baking stuff just with our big fortnightly shops, I thought I'd do it this way. So we've got quite a nice short little baking video today, and I decided I was just going to ramble over the top of it, so hopefully that's okay. So today we are going to be making, as you can see, Cornflake Treacle Tart. So for this recipe I decided to use frozen shortcrust pastry, so it's ready roll shortcrust pastry. So as you can see there, I'm setting the oven temperature for around 200 degrees on my fan oven. The reason why I decided to do something with shortcrust pastry is because it seems to be something that's really well stocked at the minute. You can get it in the fridge section, the frozen section, and obviously flour at the minute is a bit on shortage. So I thought using just straight up pastry was a much better idea, and it worked really well. So I took the shortcrust pastry out of the freezer about 2 hours before I planned on doing this. So as you can see, I'm just rolling out the pastry here, making sure that it's quite nice and even and it's wide enough to cover the surface of my tin. So here what I'm doing is I'm folding the pastry over the rolling pin. This is so that I can sort of lever it onto, well, into the pie dish evenly without just pulling on the top and completely ripping it, because it's quite heavy and we want it to be rolled in, I'd say about 2 or 3 millimeters thick. So I've just folded that up and then folded it all the way over so it sort of evenly covers my pie dish. So now that I've done that, I just want to go into the pie dish and make sure it's sort of flat. So flat at the bottom and then up at a 90-degree angle at the sides. What I'm also doing is I'm sort of pushing the pastry up against the walls. This is because the first time I did it, the walls sort of came in on themselves and some of them went in some sort of funky directions. So I just wanted them to be a bit more sort of attached to the tin. And obviously because it's shortcrust pastry, it's really easy to get out of the tin, so I thought the more firm it is, the better. I want to leave about a 1 to 2 centimetre overhang. Again, I'm just pulling this a tiny bit, just makes it nice and crispy on the ends. Don't throw away those extra bits though, because I'm going to show you what I did with those in a second. So this is where you want to grab your cooking beads. I don't actually own any cooking beads, so I decided to use rice for this. It actually works really well, so you use uncooked rice. It does mean you can't then use that rice, but I've just kept it in a separate jar, and this is sort of my baking beads instead of having baking beads. They don't work as well in terms of, you know, if you have some pastry that is determined to bubble up, it's gonna bubble up. But it does on the most cases, it does work quite nicely, just to make sure that it doesn't rise too much. So I'm just covering my pastry in tin foil and then popping the rice in and just making sure it's spread nice and evenly and firmly. So I'm going to be putting that in the oven now and putting it in for around 18 minutes. Or until it's sort of starting to get colour onto it. So now this is all the extras I had from the trimmings of my tart. There's quite a lot here. You could maybe even, if you wanted to sort of, if you had any sort of mini tart dishes or things like that, you could definitely get, you know, a couple of those out. It's not really what I was going for, and I didn't want to make another cornflake tart. I wanted to make something a bit more savoury, so that's what I decided to do with my extras today. So what I have done is I have grated some cheese. You can use any sort of cheese, cheddar, you can use vegan cheese as well. So I'm just cutting it into nice and even slices. I do later cut down the middle as well, because these slices made quite large balls. I haven't actually explained what I'm going to be making with these. So basically what I'm doing is I'm rolling out a pastry in between my thumbs. You don't want to work it too much, because it will make the pastry sort of lose its sort of toughness, let's say. It does become a bit more bready. And you want to fill that little circle with some cheese. And then you sort of just round it up a little bit like you would like a dumpling or something like that. You just make sure it's flat enough and try and pinch together the corners at the top, like so. And then you just sort of roll it out to get rid of any of the creases, so all of that lovely cheese stuff stays inside. I will say, if you can, try and make sure that the creases are at the top side when you put them on the baking sheets, because yeah, they can sort of flood out of the bottom and make a bit of a cheese puddle on your baking sheet, which isn't great. You just end up with quite a lot of burnt cheese. So yeah, maybe don't do that. But this made, I think it was around 12 different dough balls. Really good, around the right size, I would say, so about 3 to 4 centimetres in, what is it, circumference, diameter? I don't know. I've got pretty small hands, so they're pretty small, and I'm going to be using one of my non-stick mats. If you do bake a lot or sort of cook anything, I would so highly recommend these mats. They literally won't stick to anything. They're reusable. I've got 3 and I've used them for the past 5 years, so yeah, amazing. So now back to the cornflake tart. We need to make the filling, so we're going to have 140 grams of golden syrup. Go straight in the pan, don't waste it in a bowl. Then you want to add 50 grams of butter, so this is like baking butter, sort of margarine. Probably salted butter would work nicely as well. Completely whatever you have in the fridge will be absolutely fine. Dairy-free alternatives, anything, yeah, doesn't matter. And I'm also adding 10 grams of sugar. Now I'm adding coconut sugar, again, doesn't really make a difference. The original recipe says for a lot more sugar, but I am using crunchy nut cornflakes instead of normal cornflakes, so I decided to go down on the sugar. So you want to heat that at a nice low heat. You don't want it too high at all. You just want the butter to melt and for it to all combine together. So then I'm just weighing out 100 grams of my cereal of choice. Just to be clear, it really doesn't matter what cereal you use. I'm sure you could experiment with lots of different ones, even like chocolate cereals. I'm sure they would work absolutely fine, and definitely have a play around. And if you do use a different one, do let me know, because that is the sort of stuff I want to know during lockdown, is what are people making, what are people baking, what are people cooking. So my pastry has finished cooking in the oven, so you want to take that rice out. It is going to be really hot for quite a long time, so just don't touch it. And I'm just basing my cornflake tart with some golden syrup. Now some people would use jam to base their cornflake tart, and that is absolutely great idea. We just decided to do something a little bit differently, so we just put some nice golden syrup on the bottom just to make sure it was sort of coated with a non-hot golden syrup. I'm not sure if it made a huge amount of difference, but there we go. And we're popping in our cereal golden syrup butter mixture on there, and we want it to be firmly pressed in to the pastry now, just so it's really solid, because when you cut into it you don't want it all to just flake away. So yeah, I'm really pressing down on that, making sure it's all combined and isn't going to move too much. And you can already sort of feel the golden syrup sort of hardening, which is really good. And again, just topped it with a little bit more golden syrup. This you could taste on the end, and when you put it in the fridge it goes really cold, so that was a really good choice. Happy that I did that. And then that goes back into the oven for around 5 to 10 minutes. Just keep an eye on it. So when it starts to sort of change colour on the top, that's when you know you've got to get it out. So this is a couple of hours later. You can see I'm in my dressing gown. I was definitely ready for pudding now. So I'm just getting it out of that pie dish, a bit annoying. As you can see, because I trimmed it and then sort of squished the edges out so they were a bit more crumbly. It's not as aesthetically pleasing as it could be, but I mean, I'm more about the taste than the aesthetics, and it's lockdown. No one else is going to be eating it other than me, so who cares? And then for some reason I cut it into lots of pieces, even though I ate most of it myself. So that is it for today. That is how to make golden syrup treacle tart pie, I guess. Yeah, I really enjoy this pudding. It's super easy. Those cheese balls, I didn't actually film them come out of the oven. We ate them, but they were really nice. And yeah, they came out perfectly, and a great little extra as well. And just an extra little clip here of me absolutely ruining my treacle tart with some custard from a pot, because again, we're in lockdown, so nothing fancy. Thank you so much guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you do decide to make this at home, please do let me know. I hope you all stay safe and well, and I will see you next week with another video.